Okay, moving forward then to what's to come today on your World of Champions. In the FIFA World Cup, we focus on Group C and Peru take on Denmark.
Having arrived in Yekaterinburg on Tuesday night, the Peru squad were training just over 12 hours later in warm conditions at Ermac Stadium. They face France in Group C on Thursday, but could be without duo Renato Tapia and Andre Carrillo, who sat out another session because of injury. Coach Ricardo Gareca may be forced into changes, but he's perennially unconcerned by having to make any alterations to his side.
For me, generally, tactics bring a certain order to any team. But although I give them importance, neither myself nor Peru are driven by tactics alone. I always consider that the attitude and leadership of the players has more importance than tactics.
The Peruvian media are comparing the team's start to their FIFA World Cup to that of their qualifying campaign for the tournament. Slow progress was made before they exploded into form. Everyone hoping history will repeat itself.
We're very used to this type of situation. We're used to living at the limit. You've all seen that. Regarding the World Cup, any national team can win any match. I know that we can beat any team, and we're in the right condition to do so.
Peru will employ whatever tactics necessary to try and topple France.
So Peru are taking on France. They took on Denmark in their opening game. Yusuf Poulsen scored the only goal for the Danes. France at the top of the standings after their 2-1 win over Australia. A win for either of those today, and it's pretty much game over in Group C.
We'll have the same situation like we have in Group A. I do think that France can overcome Peru. The coach did say that they're hoping the group stages will go just as they qualified, a slow start and then bombing into some form. But they're certainly going to have to be at their wits' end and at their very best if they're going to have to overcome a France team that managed to do the job in the first game. And they'll look back and say, listen, this is where we went wrong. We need to be better in certain, but we do know that the quality that they possess is going to be very difficult for Peru to overcome France.
Peru face France today, and then their final game is against Australia. It's tricky because now they're facing France, and as you mentioned, they're one of the favourites. It's also a 100th game for Hugo Lloris, so he'll be ultra motivated. It doesn't get more difficult than this, does it?
It doesn't, but if they do manage to get a point, I think the coach will be going into this game saying, if we manage to get a point, we have one more game left, anything can happen. 4 points could see you progress to the next round. But once again, I think France just motivated to do better. All important 3 points in the first match gives you the confidence and the comfort not to play under pressure. And I'm sure that the coach will tweak his side a bit, one or two positions with the French team, and then take on Peru, looking to get that 3 points.
Peru, the very interesting story there is the one of their captain, Paulo Guerrera. He had tested positive and he was facing a doping ban. And he's actually in the middle of a doping ban. And then the Swiss High Court provided him a reprieve. And now it looks like he could be starting today. He didn't play in the first game, but it looks like he could feature. That was such a massive boost for them just before the World Cup.
Yeah, and we do know that Guerrera's played in Europe for so long, in the Italian league as well, and with immense quality. And they're going to be needing him if they want to steal a goal against the French and beat Lloris on his 100th cap, which is going to be very difficult. He's the man to look to. You know, he's a big figure up front, not as mobile in his later years, but he certainly holds that ball up nicely for the Peruvians so that they can join the play in attacking third, and a welcome boost for the Peruvians.
From a France point of view, a penalty for their opening goal. It was the first VAR penalty, actually. Antoine Griezmann converted. And then an own goal late on to seal a 2-1 win after Australia had equalised. They've got to show a little bit more, surely.
Yes, as I mentioned, the coach is going to say we've got the 3 points, but not a convincing victory over the Australians. And I'm sure Paul Pogba is not going to be happy with that own goal. He certainly wanted it. He'd done all the hard work in the build-up. But somebody that talk about Paul Pogba, he's somebody that's going to have to step up and really cement saying, I am one of the best here, with that hefty price tag that's seen him come to Manchester United. This is the stage set for him to say, guys, I am here. you can count me in the top 5 in the world. And the second game is certainly an opportunity for him to right all the wrongs.
Speaking of that France team, here's the update from their camp in just a second. You mentioned Pogba, though, and I want to pick up on that France midfield because it's got to be one of the best at the World Cup.
Especially for Pogba, because Kante just defending there in the defensive midfield position allows Paul Pogba to adventure a little bit forward and join up with the likes of Griezmann and Mbappe. But I think that is the role that Paul Pogba needs to be played. You know, I think a lot of talk around him that Mourinho and Manchester United stunts his ability with going forward. We've seen his quality and Juventus when he does arrive late into the box. So that midfield, just so many names, so many opportunities, so many different combinations that can be played. But I think Kante doing a sterling job and just giving Pogba that freedom to venture forward.
You also mentioned the likes of Tolisso. They've also got Dembele there. And it's easy to see why the French team are considered one of the favourites. And you mentioned Mbappe alongside Griezmann. They've also got Giroud on the bench. So much firepower too. So much names there. And you mentioned Mbappe there. He's have the opportunity to, if he does get onto the score sheet, to be the youngest player for France to score in the World Cup. But the quality that they possess, you mentioned Giroud, another dynamic that the French can play. If it doesn't work playing just 1-2s, then you can go with Giroud, have the more direct approach and play off the second ball. So French, a lot of opportunities and different combinations that can see them overcome the Peruvians. Giroud providing the aerial threat as well. We know his ability in the box with those headers. Speaking of the French team, here is that update from their camp that I promised you.
France travelled from Moscow to Yekaterinburg ahead of their second group game against Peru on Thursday. Coach Didier Deschamps' side may be top of Group C after beating Australia, but an unconvincing performance means they have something to prove if they want to go all the way in Russia. Captain Hugo Lloris expects Peru to press them high, which should give the French midfielders more space to counter-attack than they had against the Socceroos in Kazan. His coach insists the team will be ready.
Most important thing is to keep calm. Some times are harder than others. We saw that many of the other teams have not been as happy and have not won their first matches. Those teams may well have played better football than we did, but if given the choice, I think they would have chosen the victory. We have won our first game, but we are not euphoric. We are as focused as we are relaxed. It is important to concentrate on this match against Peru.
France have only faced Peru once in their history, and it was the South Americans who won in Paris way back in 1982. Deschamps now needs to decide whether to start with the same young lineup that beat Australia or recall the experience of Olivier Giroud and Blaise Matuidi. France travelled from Moscow to Yekaterinburg ahead of their second group game against Peru on Thursday. Coach Didier Deschamps' side may be top of Group C after beating Australia, but an unconvincing performance means they have something to prove if they want to go all the way in Russia. Captain Hugo Lloris expects Peru to press them high, which should give the French midfielders more space to counter-attack than they had against the Socceroos in Kazan. His coach insists the team will be ready.
The most important thing is to keep calm. Some times are harder than others. We saw that many of the other teams have not been as happy and have not won their first matches. Those teams may well have played better football than we did, but if given the choice, I think they would have chosen the victory. We have won our first game, but we are not euphoric. We are as focused as we are relaxed. It is important to concentrate on this match against Peru.
France have only faced Peru once in their history, and it was the South Americans who won in Paris way back in 1982. Deschamps now needs to decide whether to start with the same young lineup that beat Australia or recall the experience of Olivier Giroud and Blaise Matuidi.
Well, France take on bottom side Peru at the Ekaterinburg Arena, and you can watch that live on your World of Champions. It is the second game we will be broadcasting today. When we come back, Lionel Messi has it all to prove. We take a look at Argentina's game against Croatia. Stay with us. Welcome back to Blitz Live. Don't forget to use that hashtag Blitz Live on Twitter to keep in touch with us. Like Titus Mutia, good morning. He's clearly awake this morning. I asked you actually about Mohamedi's throw-in against Spain last night. And he says, have you ever watched Shaolin soccer? That's where there's a similar throw-in ball as that for Iran against Portugal in the 93rd minute. Yeah, very, very interesting. I think he meant Spain last night. Yeah. Let's move on to that match that we have spoken about just before the break and the little bit of a preview that you saw. But let's take a closer look at what we can expect from Argentina when they take on Croatia.
At 1-0 up in their opening match of the FIFA World Cup, two-time champions Argentina felt the uncomfortable chill of the Icemen.
I think we all have to deal with this, all 23 players and the full coaching staff. I think we all have to be strong and try to face what's coming together. In the dressing room we are all calm. We knew that we have other games ahead. Maybe we didn't win, but we did not lose either. We drew. We have taken it as something positive for what is to come.
If there's another positive coach Jorge Sampaoli can take from the game, it's Sergio Aguero scoring his first World Cup goal in his 9th appearance at the tournament. There was also an impressive competitive debut made by substitute Christian Pavón, whose positive influence staked his claim to start against Croatia.
I was lucky enough to make my debut in a World Cup, and my first World Cup. To tell you the truth, I'm very happy about that. To be able to make my debut in a World Cup is really important for a player. It would be truly beautiful to be amongst the starting 11.
Here's how things stand at the top of Group C. Croatia leading the way after their victory over Nigeria in the opening game. Iceland and Argentina drew 1-1, and so they have a point apiece. Our Niger boys, we're looking for them to get their first point when they face Iceland. That game is coming tomorrow. Here are confirmation of the fixtures, though. Denmark take on Australia. That's in Group C. France and Peru also in Group C. That build-up will start at 4 p.m. on SuperSport 3, and late on, Argentina and Croatia. That's the game we've turned our attention to. And you can't talk about Argentina without talking about Lionel Messi.
La Pulga, as is affectionately known, Julia. I do think that that is the game for Argentina. If they don't manage to get 3 points there, they're going to be scratching their heads. If they do manage to get a point, it's 2 points, and they see themselves not qualifying for the knockout stages. And coming up against my dark horse for this tournament, Croatia, a wealth of quality in their midfield. We know the likes of Rakitic, the likes of Modric up front with Mandzukic, and a very difficult game for Argentina. They coming into the game with a lot of questions around them. Yes, the one shining light is that Aguero did get off the mark with his first World Cup goal, but all the pressure falling onto his shoulders, Messi.
Unfortunately as well for him, because we live in this era where Messi and Cristiano Ronaldo are dominating, and there's this battle between the two. So now Ronaldo has scored 4 goals, and it's already, well, what can Messi do? And that's all you see on Twitter. But this was a very difficult game against Iceland, and Messi, we know, as we're going to see, missed that penalty.
Yeah, but I think that's a battle that the media puts out there. I don't think the two players are really too bothered about that, but certainly Argentina looks to Messi for that, to be the savior, to be the guy that saves them and has to come up with magic when it's really needed. We've seen how important he was in the build-up for them qualifying here, single-handedly doing that. But here we see a deft touch, and once again that VAR coming into play.
You saw the meme? Miss World, Miss Universe, Miss Penalty?
We can laugh about it now, but I'm sure Messi's not happy with that. He's not the best penalty takers out there. If we look at his stats going back, he does miss a few.
Yes.
But a big stage for a big player, and no surprise that Messi steps up to the penalty spot and takes it.
Just a shot there of Diego Maradona in the stands. He's such a G. They showed a big no-smoking sign, and there he is enjoying those big fat cigars.
El Diego de la Gente. They don't call him the Diego of the people for nothing.
Diego Maradona, just turning focus then to the Argentina side. He showed it all over his face in the stands, his reaction, reflecting then the disappointment of the Argentina people as a whole, and the team would be disappointed as well, and something we touched on, because given the firepower they have.
Dybala, who else to mention there? Pavon up front, Higuaín,
yes,
Messi, all the names, but I think Argentina still struggling a bit because they laboured into qualifying for the World Cup. Not a very convincing opening match with all these names and all these questions of, is this the last tournament that we see Lionel Messi donning the Argentina jersey? Results are going to really determine that. But an Argentinian team where the names need to come to the party now. We can't just rest our laurels as a team on Messi and look for him to be the sparkling light. So many names that have to come to the party.
Lionel Messi, don't forget, was the golden ball winner actually at the last World Cup in Brazil, where Argentina finished runners-up, of course, to Germany. Let's take a look at what's coming up live. Just a reminder that you are treated to a hat-trick of live games on your World of Champions today as we move to the second games in Group C. Denmark take on Australia, and then France and Peru. Argentina and Croatia in Group D is the last game tonight. Those games are all live on SuperSport 3. Our stellar panel building up to those, and the action gets underway from 1 p.m. in this very beautiful studio. Supplementary viewing for you as well. Master Plan is on a Wednesday and on a Sunday. There's FanFest on a Saturday. Don't forget to email us, fanfest@supersport.com, if you want to be a part of that studio audience. From Russia with Love is also on a Saturday. Mini Dlamini and company out in Russia. And there's the first digital football show on your World of Champions, On the Ball. You can catch that later on today on SuperSport Football on Facebook. That's it for our magazine shows. Our supplementary viewing and the live action continues this afternoon. Any predictions?
France, Argentina, Denmark.
All right.